In today's video, I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing a very special guest, and that guest is the Chief Executive Officer for Swim England, Nickerson. In this interview, we're going over Swim England's plans of returning back to the pool after lockdown, as well as a variety of different topics along the way. So if you're an aquatics fan, you definitely don't want to miss this interview. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this interview. Roll the intro. Today I am interviewing a very special guest. My guest, who has kindly agreed to do this interview with me, is Jane Nickerson, the Chief Executive Officer of Swim England. It's very nice to meet you, Jane.
Great to meet you too, Jay. It's good to do this. Thank you.
Jane, could you be able to introduce yourself and briefly explain what you do?
Okay, I'm Jane Nickerson. I'm the Chief Executive of Swim England. And maybe a little bit of background about what that is may be helpful. So we are a traditional national governing body of sport. We have several sports within our remit. Swimming, which includes Olympic swimming, para-swimming, master swimming and open water swimming. Also diving, water polo and artistic swimming. And that section includes all our club structure, our talent development, our volunteer support and development. But in addition to all of this, we look after the Learn to Swim pathways. We develop the pathway and resources and liaise with the government through school swimming. We look after teacher and coach education and training. The Institute of Swimming, one of our subsidiaries, is effectively a training college and also a membership organisation and an institute in its own right for qualified teachers and coaches. And they offer face-to-face and e-learning. Then we also have an awarding organisation, so Swim England Qualifications, who set the qualifications on the formal educational framework, define the syllabus for all our qualifications and then make the award. And on top of that, we've got lots of partnership work with pool owners and operators, do a lot of work on drowning prevention and on our health and wellbeing model. Communications is massively important, both within the sport and externally, and social media is a massively growing platform. Lots of public relations work and government interaction and influence. And I think one of the big examples of this was our return to the pool guidance, which we put out for all the operators, everybody who runs swimming pools. And then we have the back office support functions. So finance, legal, IT, people development. And my job is simply leadership. I have a great team. My role is to work with the board to set the direction and the strategy and then steer the ship in the right direction and then identifying, finding a way through any obstacles. And oh boy, have we got a big obstacle at the moment with the pandemic.
Oh yes, indeed as well. That's brilliant. Thank you, Jane. I was just wondering as well, can you name a few things that you love about your job?
I love everything about my job, really. I've been a swimmer throughout my life. So how many people get to lead the organisation which has provided so much to them throughout their life as a hobby? So I work in my hobby. So what is there not to like? I love the people, a terrific team of people involved in our sport, and that's paid staff and the whole army of volunteers we've got. And the passion that people have for the sport, working with volunteers who really just care about our success. I love the fact that swimming's given me so much. So resilience, determination, a desire to succeed, all that I'm sure came pounding up and down the swimming pool 4 hours a day, every single day. And I love the fact it builds character in our members, which actually lasts forever. But I think the greatest thing I love about it, it's a chance to work in an environment that gives so much to so many. And that's the club swimmer dreaming of being the next Adam Peaty, but enjoying the journey regardless of what happens or how far up that pyramid they get. Or the person with dementia who finds swimming reminds them of their youth. The champion who wins that medal at the Commonwealth Games, or the teacher that gives endless children the joy of learning to swim and much, much more. And that's what I love. How many people can say they've worked in that sort of environment? Definitely,
absolutely, yeah. I've been a swimmer for 12 years of my life, and I've got to say, like, this is the best community that I've ever been involved with. Like, I just have a huge passion for the sport as well. And I'm not going to do I'm on course to do my level 2 coaching course at the minute. And I just, once I eventually stop swimming, I just want to progress it further and begin coaching. So definitely love the sport of swimming. So I completely agree with you there. So an overview for the last 12 months for me, of course, has been very challenging, and there has been very difficult moments along the way. However, the support from my home programme, Derwentide Amateur Swimming Club, Durham County Council Swimming Programme, has been exceptional. The resources and the commitment the coach and staff gave to every one of their athletes allowed all of us to stay motivated, stay positive, and to stay engaged in order to find areas of where we can make gains away from being at the pool. So I was just wondering, Jane, if you could update us on what are Swim England's plans coming out of lockdown and the returns back to the pools?
Okay, so at the moment we're working really hard to convince government that pools should be one of the first things to open. We have to maintain the COVID safe environment, so keep pushing out our return to pools guidance. But we know we offer so much to so many to really help the government agenda to get people fit, because not everyone can exercise on land. I think it's rebuilding our finances. So pre-COVID, the Swim England was a really sustainable organisation. Sport England only funded 18% of our total turnover. So quite different to a lot of other NGBs. The remainder of the money that we spend on our sport and activities comes from membership, teacher training and awards badge sales. And that's stopped overnight. Membership obviously is happening now. We're trying to get membership money in now. We're hoping that we can get as much in as we can to keep us going. But we are now pretty reliant on using the Sport England funding to keep us going. So we downsized by 30%. Everyone is currently short-time working at the moment. And our focus is to recover financially in order to allow us to increase our activity. We're a charity, we don't store up money. The more money we make, the more we spend on our sport and activities. But we'll get there. We believe we'll get there. The guidance returning to pools is there. We and the operators are ready to switch on the lights as soon as we're allowed to do so. It's become quite a delicate balance of how much to push at this moment in time, because when you look at the numbers of people dying and you look at the way the NHS is overwhelmed, it would not be sensible for us to go out now and fight the pools to open today. But as soon as schools open and as soon as things start to be unlocked, that's when we should open, and that's what we're fighting for.
Definitely.
But we need to understand how hard it is out there. I mean, we had a health commission meeting yesterday, and one of our members, who was a swimmer and now volunteer with us, is a senior orthopaedic consultant surgeon. He's currently working 2 days a week as an ITU nurse.
Wow.
So that's the reality of the situation out there. It's very tough out there. But that's what we're doing. We're pushing for it to be open, and as we open up, we will regain all our normal activities.
Brilliant. I just want to say thank you as well with yourself and your Swim England team of what all the hard work that you've been putting through, and especially with the return to the pool guidance. Like, it's been so helpful, and it's been so amazing to see the hard work was paying off, and hopefully we'll get back in the water very, very soon.
We will.
When over 18s weren't allowed to train for their clubs in Tier 3, it was definitely tough because our region was in eventually went into Tier 3. But I was able to manage this and using what resources I had to train at the best of my ability, and I was able to still make improvements throughout that period. As a club, even to this day, we're still trying to find new ways of how we can get better so that we're prepared for when we do get back in the water. I was just wondering, have you got any updates regarding about over 18s training with their clubs?
We're fighting on this one. The issue is the government make regulations that fit a whole raft of things. They don't drill down. Swimming is our world. Nothing else exists but swimming. But unfortunately to them, there is a whole bigger world out there. And when I asked them the reason for the over 18s being stopped, because I just couldn't get my head around it, why have you stopped them? The reason they gave us was that, over 18s adults, once they've been doing an activity, they're more likely to get together and socialise.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're talking about 18-year-old swimmers here who train, go home, eat, sleep, get back into training again. That's what they do. It's not about socialising, it's eating, sleeping, but they just didn't drill down to that level of detail. We're trying to fit there to get them there. It was bonkers to me that you could, as an 18-year-old, go and train in a leisure centre, buy a ticket and just go and train members of the public and elbow them out of the way. Length butterfly works, by the way. Length butterfly will clear your lane, it's fine.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Well, some pools that we went to weren't allowed to use butterfly, so that was quite difficult. We were very limited of what strokes we could do. But like I say, it was predominantly mainly breaststroke and front crawl that we were doing. But again, you just have to work around it, and you just have to get the best out of your training as possible. And the main thing was, at least we were still in the water.
Yeah, that's true. We had some very enterprising facility owners who were literally blocking off 2 lanes next to the club lane and selling a ticket to the 18-year-olds. So they were literally doing the club sessions.
Right.
So some of them were being really helpful on that. But yeah, I hope we win that battle. I hope we do, because it's just bonkers for summers. It really was.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What are Swim England's plans moving forward after COVID for competitions?
Right, competitions are really important because that's what people train for at the end of the day. We've published our roadmap for competitions,
Right.
our 5-point roadmap, but without any dates, obviously. We've put Level X on, which is a competition which you can do in your own training environment, and that's opening up to all disciplines. So we'll continue with Level X, but for everything. But as soon as we can get some form of competition going safely again, we will do so. Now, my feeling is we should leave that to regions, counties and clubs to start with, because that brings income into them, and worry about nationals at some other time. We are working with British Swimming because they have closed events which are allowed to take place under the elite return to training and competition rules. So we will learn from those events and see what learning we can take from it. But as soon as we're allowed to have more people back in the environment, we will certainly open up.
Definitely.
I know it doesn't seem fair that some people are allowed to train and race and others can't. And I do see that on my Twitter account. All I can say is life isn't fair. It isn't fair at the moment at all. But I think the pandemic isn't giving everybody the same opportunities. You can be in different tiers. And I had friends who went from tier 2 to tier 4 overnight. I think they bypassed tier 3 even. You know, that's the world we're in at the moment. But I don't think we can just say, if everybody can't do it, nobody does it. I don't think that's fair. So I think we just have to go with doing the best we can for everybody, pushing for pools to be open, and just being respectful to each other if somebody gets a better opportunity than somebody else at the moment.
100%, definitely. And like you said about Level X, that's great that you've managed to get working towards all disciplines having the Level X competition. Our club was part of that Level X as well, and it was really nice to get up and do some racing again, even though it was like behind closed, but like within a club environment. But it was brilliant. We had quite a successful Level X period actually. The performance for Derwentide over the past 18 months has been incredible. We have had some great performances over that period. One of our para athletes, Lyndon Longhorn, is on British Swimming's World Class Potential pathway, and we have got swimmers on every Swim England performance pathway too. As a club, we were able to achieve 12 to 13 athletes who have qualified for Olympic Trials British Swimming Championships, including myself. Do you think the trials will still go ahead in April?
They're working for them to go ahead. Whether they will go ahead open or whether they'll have to be reduced down to an elite behind closed doors event that only allows those that are on the elite return to training programme to enter or not, it will depend on the government regulations at that point. Everything's been planned for them to go ahead on a wider basis, and it's just fingers crossed. Until we get the recovery roadmap, the lockdown roadmap out of the government, we don't really know what that will look like. But there's certainly willingness, absolute willingness for them to take place and to make it as wide and as open as it can be. And I know that might mean somebody ends up racing without having a bank of training behind them. Easier for the sprinters, you know, because I often think of Mark Foster, who did most of his training on land.
Yeah.
Didn't really do a lot of his training in the pool in his latter years. You know, sprinters can do that more than the distance swimmers. Yeah.
I'm on the distance spectrum. I'm a 400 IM, 200 IM breaststroke swimmer. But again, you just have to you have to have a goal, and then you just have to work on land and just be resilient and persevere through these times. And if we are able to go to trials without any pool training, you just have to just enjoy the experience and just see how well you do. You don't have to set any expectations whatsoever. Just go in and race and just enjoy being back in the pool. Definitely.
You find you swim really well because you'll be more relaxed.
Yeah, definitely.
Flashing records going, where did that come from?
It might surprise a lot of people. Maybe it's a way forward. But here in our county, we have great local pathway support. For the club, we are part of the Durham County Council Swim Scheme, which does a great job from progressing children who are learning to swim and then progressing them all the way to performance level athletes. We also have the County Durham Hub, which is a regional and county level swimmers from clubs around County Durham to have a long course session at the Sunderland Aquatic Centre. We also have the N&D Performance Programme, formerly known as Beacon, where we have top-ranked national athletes from all over the county trained at the Sunderland Aquatic Centre 2 to 3 times a week in order to get long course training. N&D helped fund this for the opportunity, and this was previously funded by Swim England as well. Is there anything you can advise to help us local athletes stay motivated through these challenging times?
Yeah, support each other. I think that's the thing to do. I mean, I do honestly believe swimming builds resilience, and we need this in bucket loads right now. Keep the virtual sessions, keep the landwork sessions. Come on to our, we've got this whole virtual sort of camp type thing happening shortly that we'll be putting out. So come on to those, because that creates a community sense of everybody coming in together. Keep in touch with all your club mates through Zoom or whatever. Just keep in touch. Open water swimming is enticing some people. Mm-hmm. Now, it is a fantastic sport, but I would just say, as an indoor swimmer, you need to be careful and you need to get used to the cold gradually. It's wonderful for your mental and physical health, but cold water shock is fatal. So it is about even the most experienced swimmers need to acclimatise. So I can't caution, enough on this. As an indoor swimmer myself, putting me out in the freezing cold, you need to build up to it. And the water will be at its coldest in the spring because it's had all winter to cool down. So do it, but be careful is what I would say if we can't get back in the pool yet. But just keep remembering how great that water feels, the friends that you make through it. And if you time slip, it's not the end of the world. It really isn't the end of the world. Time to do this anyway. But I know swimming fitness lasts, even when you're not in the pool all the time if you're doing other things. Now, I'm way off the times I swam in my youth, way off. But my fitness levels, even now, outdo many other people, my age and younger, when I'm running for the bus or something like that, still streets ahead. So your fitness won't drop off that quickly. You will get speed back, but the most important thing is just enjoy it, because that's what it's all about.
100%. Like the first time when we first returned back in the pool, it's like you say, you just lose the feel a little bit, but that only takes like a few weeks. But yeah, exactly. Just it will come back. I think it only took me about 3 weeks to start and feel like normal again, back swimming. And I think a lot of people do need to realise that it doesn't take long whatsoever. And this is just a little bump in the road, and we'll soon get back to normal, hopefully.
And isn't that a lovely feeling when you first dive in and you feel like that dolphin that's just gone, oh, I'm in the water.
Definitely.
It's like home, doesn't it? Just feels like home.
Just a massive smell of chlorine as soon as you walk in as well. Well, thank you very much for doing this interview with me, Jane. But before you go, do you mind if we play a quick game of this and that?
Okay, we'll see what it entails.
So, as you mentioned before that you are a swimmer, so this game, what we're going to play is you just have to, I'm going to say 2 things and you just have to say whatever comes into mind straight away, okay?
Okay.
So, are you a trainer or a racer?
Oh, trainer.
Long course or short course?
Short.
Front crawl or backstroke?
Backstroke.
Butterfly or breaststroke?
Breaststroke.
Backstroke or breaststroke?
Breaststroke.
Sprint or distance?
Sprint.
Kick or pull?
Kick.
And do you prefer training outdoors or indoors?
Indoors.
Indoors. Nice. Great, thank you very much. That was just a nice little game to finish off. Once again, I want to thank you very much for doing this interview with me. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you and talking to you. And yeah, hopefully that we will get back in the water very, very soon. Thank you and your Swim England team of all the hard work that you've been doing and still continuing to do so. I always keep checking on Swim England's Twitter and your Twitter account to stay updated, and it's really, really good to see that we're making them progresses and hopefully getting back in the water very, very soon.
We will. And Jay, you keep going and keep enjoying it and get that level 2 coaching and be vouched as well. So
definitely, I will do.
To you and everybody know it's like. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I would just like to thank Jane for this amazing opportunity. It was an absolute pleasure to meet her and speak with her. I would just like to thank Jane and her Swim England team for all the hard work they're putting in for our return to the pool. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new,
and share my video with your friends and family. Keep up to date with my social medias of when I'll be posting next, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.